Hello and welcome to Screwdrivers video game. And August 20th, Screwdrivers has released their 1.0 full release. So we're going to go over, as a refresher course for myself, Propellers. Everything about Propellers. At least everything that I know. Now, first and foremost, Propellers do not work with chains. Here I am trying to hit the gas and nothing's happening. So don't even bother adding chains. Now in the Pretty Fly DLC, there are 4 propellers of various sizes. Small, small medium, medium big, and big. Is that what we should call them? The official name is Propeller X3, X4, X8, and X12. So you can actually kind of see these as uh, how many more rotations the smaller one needs to get to the propeller 4, how many rotations propeller 4 needs to get to propeller 8, how many rotations propeller 8 needs to get to propeller 12. And it's easier to think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4. The smallest one needs to rotate 4 times as much to get to propeller 12. Something like that. See, 3 times 4 is 12. So therefore, it must require 4x of the rotation. Make sense? Makes sense. For simplicity's sakes, we are using the biggest rotary engine, the rotary X8. On this test vehicle, I have the smallest propellers and a new gear ratio. You can see the gear ratios. It's amazing. Just 1 to 1. As you can see, a small propeller, 1 to 1 ratio. You already redline your engine. It's not very efficient, and the max speed is around 25 miles per hour. This is not what you want to see in an airplane. So what you have to do is you have to increase the rate of rotation of the smallest propellers to even come close to the largest propellers. Here is the same setup with the largest propellers. The RPM, as you can see, is ramping much slower. But the speed increase is much greater. And if we clock our speed by the time we get to the bridge, we can get a gauge of how fast these are going. About 190, 200. Before I move on from the big propellers, one immediate way to add power to your propellers is to just simply add another engine along the shaft. Like so. I went ahead and added 3 engines to the test structure. Now the RPM ramps up much faster. And we can see by the time we get to the bridge, our RPM is almost maxed. And we hit the bridge at around 250 miles per hour. We are back with the smallest propellers. And if I hit G, we can see that I have converted the gear ratio to 4.6. So X3 times 4.6 is around the same power as the giant propellers, from what I gather, from what I have been experimenting with. Let's go test it out. Now, one problem with this smallest propeller, it's starting to rotate so fast that it explodes itself unless you add additional support. Now, typically an axle only requires 2 supports, in which this one requires 3 at least. We are going to add this extra support right here. There we go. And as we take off, we're going to head towards the bridge, and the axle will not explode out of its holding. And we will continue going much faster. As you can see, the red line is now bouncing. We didn't explode at the bridge. Now, even though we have a 4x gear ratio, it's still not quite as fast as the X12 propeller blades. But you get the idea. So this max turn ends up being around 220, maybe even lower. Now this is the same build as the small build. I just made the propellers the X4s. Same gear ratio of 4.6. Now one really important fact that I didn't go over yet is when you add an engine. Oh, come on, there you go. When you add an engine onto an axle that isn't the original axle, suggesting to add more power, it changes the gear ratio. Okay? What you do get is that this axle spins up at a higher RPM much faster. These engines still contribute to this gain in power, but overall, it's not going to be better than if you just left the engine off. It will take longer to ramp up, but it's best to bring all the power to the original axle, and I will show you an example. Here we are with the 3 on the 1 axle. We are just going to creep up to max RPM. We are going to start our turn at 6,000, I think it would, 60,000? 6. We're just going to start our turn at the number 6. And as we get into the red, we're starting to really increase our speed. Starting to red line. It's already 600 miles per hour, so yeah. So let's go back and add an engine to the top axle and see the difference. Once again, that was a 4.6 ratio. We are going to add an engine to the top. It will convert it to the 2.3. It will ramp up its RPM much faster, but it'll be much slower than before. As we can see, it's ramping up much faster than if we left one engine off the top axle. But it has a detrimental effect to the vehicle in the long run. So it leads me to believe, now that we can see gear ratios, to not put engines onto an axle for more power. We're coming up on 6. Let's start our turn. Now we are picking up speed now that we're in the red, but you'll see in a second here. We're redlining much sooner, and we're turning much sharper. In fact, I suspect it was an even lower top speed. And if you go to the Pretty Fly DLC leaderboards, you can see that I'm here. I'm usually top 10. I figured out how to combine propellers into getting into the top 10. Trying to perfect, it's not showing over here. I'm not sure why. There it is. See, another top 10. So you can see other names in here. I guess Catburger is another famous name. Winter Fox. White Dwarf is another name. Yeah, there's Catburger. I beat him on this one. He's beat me on others. There, see, he's beat me on this one overall. Yeah, stuff like that. So here's my record-winning airplane. I have just two X8 motors. One motor is going to the front propeller in a 2.3 gear ratio. Another motor is going to the back propeller in a 2.88 gear ratio. So this 2.3 gets up to speed slightly faster than the 2.8, and then the 2.8 kicks in and gives me a boost in extra speed. Another little tip is to put these little motors on your front engines. They allow you to e-brake when you're landing, and they allow you to take off slightly faster on takeoff. Here is a 4-prop small propeller build. The gear ratio is 1.6. So 1.6 times 4, that's about 5, right? A little over 5. So that gives me this almost the same amount of power as the prop X12, I assume. But I'm only using the one X8 rotary engine. We can do a test flight. So it takes no time to ramp up since it's only a 1.6 ratio, but since we have 4 props, it's 1.6 times 4, which gives us the thrust we need to take off. I said the thrust we need to take off. Now, it's not a very fast flyer. One motor doesn't push a lot of power compared to 4 motors pushing, right? So it's a well-balanced 4-prop plane. It's very hard to take off, apparently. And I guess I'll show you my top 10 plane. As you can see, the two different RPMs. One's ramping faster than the other. One's taking longer to get there. There's a little bit of an issue to where if you're experiencing too much G's or G-force or turbulence, trying to turn the airplane is a little jerky, but pretty good. Really fast airplane. There are some maps that require you to turn much faster. The way I was able to achieve this is just I attached my extra flaps to the servo, like so. And you got to be careful with extra junk in the trunk. You can turn much sharper, but you gotta limit your servo rotation because you could really send your plane into the ground with the amount of turn that you have just added. But I take it off for maps that don't require a lot of abrupt turns, and I put it back on for maps that require like extreme movements. See, you want to turn the servo down you don't want such extreme movements. Last but not least is one of my pride and joys. I call it the folder, and for some reason it's missing a tire. Let's put that back on there, and I'll show you what it can do. Let's go ahead and take off. Now the takeoff's a little rough now that I have it adjusted a little bit, but it does take off. And if I hit the hotkey, it folds the front landing gear up underneath the wings. I don't know if it affects the airplane at all. I just think it looks really cool. It's very fun to fly. It's not a fast airplane. It's not going to be record setting, but I like the idea of a folding landing gear. I might actually try to build a fuselage in the future to try and fold the landing gear into the fuselage. That would be really neat, I think. So this is kind of a floater with the wingspan that I got on it. And if you're not careful, you'll bounce any day. Oh, yeah. Any crash you can walk away from is a great crash. So yeah, I hope to see you on the leaderboards. Get to it and do it. Ignore the top 15 second, 20-second clears. They were abusing physics with servos.